Hello. So, last weekly update, I mentioned that for this week, I wanted to test out my camera, which is right here. So, yesterday, me and my friend went out to take photos, but a lot happened and had a lot of technical difficulties. The SD card that I bought for my camera was faulty, so none of the photos that I took could save. So, I basically wasn't really able to utilize my camera to the best of my ability. But today after school, I went to London Drugs and got it fixed. So hopefully by this weekend or by next week, I can go out and actually take photos that look good and play around with this camera a little bit more. So that's perfectly fine. We all have some setbacks, right? But the survey that I put out last week, I got so many results, and they were all so well thought out, and they proposed some ideas that I never even considered. And I have it all printed out right here. So I'm just gonna flip the camera and show you what's going on with that. So this first question, what does fashion mean to you? How is it relevant to your life or your identity? I got so many responses, and surprisingly, they were all so similar. So they mostly focused on how fashion was crucial to their comfort, confidence, and self-expression. It was a way for them to show your identity and your style and your interests. So there's just a lot of interesting stuff on here. And I've highlighted the stuff that I want to delve in deeper or have inspired me or to show a commonality between all the answers, and also just phrases that I think are really powerful. And then for this one, where do you get your inspiration for your sense of style? I kind of summarized the results a little bit. So family, friends, social media, pop culture, and celebrities, art and places, miscellaneous stuff, no one, the public, and the past. Yeah, it surprised me how many people thought social media was very inspirational for them. There's a lot of unconscious influence present in in my generation. Although we feel most of our ideas are original, we consume so much media that we're just unconsciously influenced by what we're seeing, which is something really interesting that I might get into in the future. And then the next one is just describe your style or your aesthetic. And I summarized that as well. So comfy and alternative and baggy are the most common ones that I've found. So when I explore the subcultures and the niches of this generation, I'm definitely gonna take that into consideration. For this one, this was so interesting. I'm getting into the longer questions now, and these are the ones that I found the most thought-provoking. So I've color-coded it on pink for saying if they agree, and blue if they disagree. And there was a lot of people who agree that social media has influenced them. And I have notes right here. So again, the unconscious inspiration, social media is everywhere, and sometimes we really don't realize that our outfits are inspired by what we're seeing. And the people who said no are usually the ones who aren't already actively interested in fashion. So obviously their social media will reflect that. And this is a good point that I didn't even think about. It's how social media versus corporate media differ in inspiring this generation. Since I feel like corporate media, the lines between corporate and social media are very, very blurred at the moment. And this one is probably the most favorite question I asked so far, because it got the most variety in answers. So how does our generation's views in fashion differ from the previous generations? So overall, we're a lot more open-minded. We have a lot more freedom and expression, and a lot less judgment. And this was a really good point. It's like I read a lot about how we're just following trends but also making trends, and that we're kind of like a copycat generation, which kind of ties in with unconscious influence, which that would be a really good think piece to write on. So yeah, like we are trendsetters and trend followers. It's just very interesting, like how much of that is genuinely because we want to follow the trend, and how much of that is just us subconsciously doing so. And this one, do you believe fashion is an important form of self-expression? A lot of people said yes for this one, and a point that a lot of these, like some of these brought up that I didn't consider, is how the way you express yourself with fashion leads to you being stereotyped to a subculture or a niche that you may not even be part of. So like one person here said, the people around you see you wear these clothes and automatically associate you with those kinds of people. So I wrote here, discuss harmful stereotypes that may go alongside different subcultures. So yeah, I'm really happy with all the answers I got from the survey, and I'm very excited to start writing myself and doing more research and getting more into like the visual and creative part of this project. So yeah, although the photography aspect of this week's like progress wasn't really completely successful, I am really happy with everything I've accomplished with my survey. Although one point that I did think about when I was reviewing all the results was that most people who took it already had like a predisposition towards fashion, so I didn't really get like a very unbiased result on this survey. But ultimately I think that's totally fine because my zine is very focused on fashion, and I don't think a zine focused on fashion would do well with a lot of answers from people who aren't interested in fashion, if that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the end of this week's guided inquiry update, and I will see you next week.